Hey Thumpers, welcome back to another episode of Hyper Heroes. Hector and I are here to review Marvel's Inhumans. We checked out the first two episodes, which premiered in IMAX theaters.
IMAX.
We're gonna talk about some spoilers. We're gonna just jump into this bad boy. Holy f***! What a pile.
I want to say too before we start, like,
yes, absolutely.
I don't want anybody showing up to this thing, to this review of with like a Michael Jackson popcorn gif or a Bill Hader popcorn gif and pull out a chair like this gonna be good. Like, I don't want anybody to do that because we don't set out to do these things to be snarky, to be negative for no reason, to bash on stuff, to be cynical. And if you're watching this right now and you're like, that's not true because you don't like a thing that I liked as much as I liked it, go back and watch that stuff because we have conversations, we have discussions, we can back our stuff up.
Yeah.
If we don't feel like we connect with something or like it as much as other people,
We always have pros and
reasons.
cons.
Pros and cons. We have reasons for it.
Yeah.
And it's totally okay to like different stuff and not everything is for everybody.
Right.
So I just want to get that out of the way. I am oftentimes when this happens, when something comes out that I don't think is great or I don't connect with, I am super bummed that I didn't like this.
Sure.
I am super bummed because I like the Inhumans. I love Blackagar Boltagon. That's the character's real name.
Yeah.
We didn't even hear it once. His
Nope.
name was just Black Bolt.
Yeah.
You know, like, I love that shit. It's
Yeah.
crazy. And Kirby just had his 100th birthday, and these are like quintessential Jack Kirby designs and craziness, and I love that stuff. I love the world of the Inhumans, and I only know all the characters' names because I know comic books. So when I'm talking to Adam in the car on the way back, I'm like, well, Karnak was this, and Gorgon was this. Adam was like, oh, I don't even know what,
Let's just get into it. I think that's my big issues with these first two episodes is everyone, and we talked about it, everyone's really bland.
Yeah.
None of the characters, except for maybe Gorgon.
Gorgon, yeah.
Gorgon.
Bit of a personality.
That to me was
even then,
my biggest, and like I will admit this right now. I don't know the Inhumans from the comics. I never read Inhumans comics. I was going into this strictly as somebody who was completely fresh, completely neutral. I watched the trailers. I wasn't crazy about the trailers, but I went into it going, hey, trailers maybe weren't great. This could be really dope.
Yeah.
It's shot on IMAX. I love the IMAX format.
Yep.
You know, they've got some great actors. I really like Anson Mount. I really like Serinda Swan. She was in
from
Smallville.
Marvel Television that, like, they've been getting better with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
and the Netflix stuff has been great for the most part.
They'll have learned lessons from early Marvel, the season
and going
1
into
and 2,
this, obviously, it was Scott Buck, who was a showrunner for Iron Fist.
Yeah.
I came out of Iron Fist liking him more than most people did, surprisingly.
Yeah.
So I thought, oh, maybe actually Inhumans won't be that
not
bad.
Rooting against this, but this is where we got to start. To me, as we're watching this, I was rewriting it.
Yep.
Which is never a good sign. I was like, well, here's what I would have done, and here's,
right.
And figuring out what are the problems.
What's not working? Why?
What's
how do we
not
fix
working?
it?
Why not? And you were saying that, first of all, just to your point, that all the characters were bland. Why? Because I think I figured it out. They are the royal family. And the show feels like writers trying to write characters that are above it all.
It's trying to write Game of Thrones.
But it's not Game of Thrones.
Right.
And if they wanted to have that, which to me, the Inhumans could absolutely be a rad sci-fi Game of Thrones of the Marvel Universe.
Absolutely.
They are a royal family. It's all royal family drama. It's relatable. Like the people that have been making the show have been saying. Then I'm like, okay, Marvel, ABC, you got to drop some of that money, that Game of Thrones money, to get the writers that are that or that can do that. So for me, this is the list. Number one thing that I'm like, what's the problem? What's the issue? And let's fix it. If Marvel, if Disney, if ABC, if Marvel Studios even, because it's kind of affiliated with, wants the show Inhumans to be successful, I feel like you got to nip this in the bud as soon as possible. You got to get better writing. The writing was a real struggle. The writing is, again, the dialogue was really tough, and it had moments because I think, again, they're trying to write the characters that are above it all. But it's like, I feel like it would have been a wiser choice, lots of things, to focus more on making them more relatable and have them talk normally, not with these sort of affected, kind of not quite British, but not quite mid-Atlantic, above it all sort of accents, and just like let them talk colloquially, let them talk like people do in the United States and Southern California, as long as it's relatable. So that the writing was really tough, and then the plot itself, like the order of events. You've got Maximus who who is taking over the royal family right off the bat, which is again a thing I'm like, I would have saved that for end of episode 2.
Yeah.
Big twist. It's Maximus.
I would have built up the character of Maximus. I think like as somebody
make
who
him a
doesn't
good guy.
Yeah, and I think as somebody who like doesn't understand the lore or doesn't know what the lore of the Inhumans is exactly, you kind of go into we're talking about how Loki and Thor, their relationship is great because you have this empathy for Loki.
Totally.
Because Thor is a character who's really built up. His father, he's son of Odin. Odin, the All-Father, and all these sorts of things. There is some jealousy, and you can feel that jealousy coming through. And he kind of feels like he's the less worthy son.
Even when they're little kids.
And even when they're little kids, and then when it's revealed that he's the son of a frost giant, there's so much emotional sort of range with Loki that they really tug on, and it works so well.
And on paper, Maximus is that.
He
on
is
paper,
that.
like
he has no abilities.
They tell you that they're like the Inhumans is a society where everybody gets exposed to Terrigen mist or the Terrigen crystals or whatever when they're young. Yeah. They get powers. We see a thing where that happens, and then we learn that Maximus doesn't have powers.
Exactly.
And they're like they treat him
I'm
like
there's
human.
your hook. There's
That's
your dynamic. There's the big difference between Black Bolt and Maximus.
How great would it have been if he were like a Lex Luthor from the Smallville show? Where he's Clark's friend the whole time, but he's still plotting. Yes. And you're like, dang, dude, like
when
we
we
know,
see him as the audience, we see what the real piece of shit
evil.
Is.
So if he were just a good guy, the brother to Black Bolt, the king of the Inhumans, or Blackagar, like the whole time for 2 episodes, and at the end of episode 2, you learn it's just like Obadiah Stane. Yep. He was the one that hired the terrorists. Oh damn, dude, that was his mentor. Could have done the same.
And it
thing.
did not work in this show.
Right off the bat, to have Maximus all of a sudden out of nowhere. But again, back to we're gonna keep doing that. Back to the plot of it. He grabs and takes over Medusa, and the way that he took her down was like guys with guns showing up. It's very bland. It's very normal looking. And then they like grab her arms and put her on her knees, and she's on the ground. And the way she took down some bad guy thugs with guns is with her CG hair, kind of weak, but like they did it. Then she's down on the ground. She's still awake. She's not unconscious.
Not unconscious.
Not unconscious.
How do they take her out in this show?
Please don't do this. And he just pulls out like a little
hair trimmers,
electric hair trimmer that we get on Earth. I didn't mention this. They live on the moon for maybe thousands of years, for like enough time that they've never been to Earth. And he just grabs a razor that I feel like I could have gotten at Walgreens.
Norelco. You can get at Walgreens right now.
And Maximus just like shaves her head and she's crying. And when he was doing that, I was like, Medusa, attack him.
Use your fucking powers,
attack him with your hair.
You got that hair.
But again,
it's down to your ankles.
On paper, if they wanted to have a scene where like, and then he overpowers Medusa, y'all could do that. You need budget. You need to take a second, third, fourth pass at this script to make it like, where everything makes just more sense.
And we should also say, she gets like zapped in the head.
Yeah.
Before that happens.
Never explained what that
does. That mean her powers are gone? Does that mean like they don't explain who that character is, what he does, and how it affects her?
Could have been explained in a non-clunky way.
Right.
There was lots of explanations in the 2 episodes that were clunky. It's not that they shouldn't have had them, but you had a great description at the beginning with this Terrigen Mists ceremony.
This bar mitzvah of sorts.
This bar mitzvah, this quinceañera,
this wedding.
This coming of age event, this wedding. The royal family's there because they're witnessing 2 young people, a little boy, a little girl. They're like 12, 13. They're going to get exposed to this thing. And then what happens? Karnak
We cut to Karnak. Yeah, Ken Lung's character Karnak.
He's
basically giving us this entire exposition of what's happening in this scene. And I'm thinking, this is the royal family. This is not their first, second, third, fourth, fifth, 100th, 500th rodeo. They've been through this year after year after year after year. The person who's actually doing the minister, the priest of this event, he should be the one. Like when you go to a wedding,
we're gathered here
today to witness the joint union of the
Adam doesn't even know the Inhumans comics.
Yeah, and I'm like, he could have done this. He could have been the one to explain this to the audience. So why is Karnak explaining this to us?
So number 1 for me is writing.
Yeah.
Number 2 is
it sucks because I don't want to fault the acting. I don't want to fault the acting, but the actors don't do a good enough job, but it's not their fault.
The writing
and the way they're directed.
Really tough stuff. The writing and the directing does not help. Ken Lung, for example, was my favorite character until a certain point in the show. He plays Karnak, who's like this like ahead of the game sort of Sherlock Holmesian guy who can like
didn't know what his power was.
Can see all the moves ahead of the game, and I know this from the comic books. Sure. Ken Lung is an awesome actor. I know him. You know him from one line in The Force Awakens. Yeah. One line, and he still stands out because the dude is good. I love him from Lost. He played Miles.
Rush
in
Hour,
Lost.
baby.
Rush Hour. He was
from Hong Kong.
He was in X-Men: The Last Stand for 2 seconds. Like the guy works, and he's a good actor. And in this, At one point he gets transported to Hawaii because they're filming the show in Hawaii. And the two episodes, unfortunately, reminded you all the time that you're watching a TV show.
Yeah.
They reminded you by just constantly just being located in Hawaii for everything. And it's a bummer because it's a bummer. It's a beautiful place to film. Lost makes sense because they're on a deserted island.
Right.
But you get to the Inhumans and it's like the moon and just Hawaii. So anyway, he gets transported to a mountain in Hawaii. He's supposed to be this like very like capable guy physically, and he starts climbing down this cliff and he's feeling, and then he just like trips and falls and hits his head and he's out. And we cut to another scene, and right then I was like, "What's going on?" We cut back to him and he starts like just talking. He's like, "I gotta find my king.
Yeah.
What's happening to me?" And I'm like, this writing is not helping him at all.
Yeah.
At all. And there's ways to do everything that happened in this story in non-clunky ways. So for me, number one is writing. Number two is a combination, I think, of directing and like design.
Yeah.
Set design. The
Wear
lighting.
and tear. 1,000-year-old group of people.
Thank you.
Wear and tear. The world needs to feel lived in.
Yeah.
The people who are like the miners, they felt lived in, but it's because they're doing a job that requires them to be lived in.
Mm-hmm.
Even with it being a royal family, that world just looked too new.
Because it was
there
were
shiny.
sets.
You could feel like it's a set, and like it's a bummer because IMAX invested into this. IMAX gave them the technology to be able to explore this world on a big canvas, and it's not explored. It's not.
Mm-hmm.
I love the IMAX technology, but the whole time that I'm watching this, I'm looking at Inhumans and I'm thinking of Dunkirk. Granted, two very different budgets.
Yeah,
absolutely.
we get that.
Absolutely, but visually, stylistically,
Yeah.
IMAX
just the way shots were framed in Dunkirk with an IMAX camera versus how they're shot.
It feels big and bombastic.
Which feels very generic.
And with this, I'm like, this just looks like a TV show.
They're just shooting. They're zooming out to this cool set that they built, but it looks like a set that they built. And then I'm sorry, but holding out on the set as they zoom out, as two characters walk up the stairs, and we see two people with their feet in the pool and zooming out. I'm like, this is not like epic. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I'm saying? And all of the sets,
it doesn't have the scale that I thought it would.
They're just way too well lit. That if they were, we were talking about lighting and coloring in like the Defender show.
Yeah.
You know, they have sets too, and
if
yet
that
they
shit
feel,
was shot in IMAX, it would look dope.
Right? These sets are just all the lighting on the walls feels fake. It's all IKEA. It's all evenly lit, way too evenly lit. Even when they're talking to the miners outside, and Maximus is lit from like the sun.
Yeah.
It's way too evenly lit. And if you're trying to tell me like, well, that's because they're on the moon, I'm like, I didn't buy it. Unfortunately,
honestly, I think the stuff that looks the best is when they're on the streets of Hawaii.
Yeah.
Because it's all naturally lit.
They're on the streets of Hawaii. I
and,
agree.
You know, the controlling of the light is different. Or when you're on a set, it's all even Stevens, and I'm like,
when Black Bolt walks into like a suit store, because I'm like, this is the lighting of a suit store, and then he goes
when he's in the jail.
I'm like, this the lighting here works, and the issue too is that they'll be having dinner and they had like forks and spoons and plates and glasses that I'm like, I could buy that at Pier 1. And this is like a set design budget thing. I get it that it's a budget thing, but you guys are trying to tell me that you decided to do this very ambitious sci-fi show.
Make it a little more
kind of
sci-fi.
A budget. Like,
don't make it look like a regular glass.
Yeah,
Give me a little something different.
Other than just phones and a wrist, which is like we all have those.
Yeah, I'm wearing one.
You know, yeah, it needed to, it just felt like a.
They need to embrace more of the sci-fi element.
Yeah,
and it did not.
But it was like it was like a generic sci-fi show, and I did want more of the world of Atalan, is how they pronounce it. I've always read it in the comic books as Attilan. That's a dumb thing, but I'm still like, Atalan doesn't sound as cool as Attilan. I don't know. That'd be like if they call it Atalantis. Like I'm like, it rolls too much. Like
Atlantis.
Atlantis. Like it's gotta have a sharp like
Atlantis.
Who cares? That's a nitpick. It really doesn't make a difference. But this is a bigger, broader stuff. Is like set design, like the artistry involved in that, and I guess that ties into the costumes as well, which. They're fine, and again, it goes back to budget. We understand that, we get that, but if there are these characters that have lived in this society for thousands of years, how are you going to have a zipper on a jacket? You know, and I can see the
it should be like a suit.
It should be
like
things
Spider-Man's suit, which has like, or Superman or Batman's, where you can't see the seams.
Yeah,
and it's kind of been a problem too for me. And like, it's different. It's obviously very different in the CW universe because they are like regular people.
They're trying to be more
exactly.
For sure.
Whereas with this, it's like it's sci-fi. Why doesn't Black Bolt have the full suit with the mask and like Medusa? Like I don't know.
At one point for that ceremony in the beginning, he has a headband.
Yeah, and I'm like, is that supposed to be?
It has this classic tuning fork.
Yeah,
and
is that supposed to be their take on the mask?
I'm like, get rid of the headband. I would have rather had a full mask.
Right.
And I don't mind that Lockjaw doesn't have a tuning fork on his head, but just has like a colorization, like a little birthmark thing. I was like, that looks great.
Yeah.
Lockjaw's the best part of the show. Lockjaw, the CG for Lockjaw, and the animation,
Right.
great. I wish
And it's
he
not
had-
even like it's great, but it's not like as good as it could be. But you know
Right.
where their budget went.
And I buy it.
Yeah.
And I buy it. The
It
way
worked.
he's introduced is that Crystal calls him over and he's like from far away. So you're like, oh, that's cute. And he just keeps getting bigger,
and
because
bigger?
he's
Yeah.
And I was like, that's a great way to introduce him. I think
will
that was
say
great.
the one thing that was interesting to me when we started watching, and I now I want to look up the director and the cinematographer
Mm-hmm.
and see, because I almost feel like this would have played really well in 3D.
Oh, yeah. Sure.
In the beginning, like, and
Because
not throughout
in
the whole thing, but
because in the beginning when they're chasing a young woman who's like an Inhuman,
it's Nicola
and-
Peltz from
and-
Transformers.
nice, and Triton finds her.
Yeah.
Triton, who ends up getting killed, or we
Right.
don't know what happened to him in the rest of the show. First of all, Triton's makeup didn't look great either, and it's like, it's just a
Again,
bummer.
it
But
looks
anyway,
all very homemade.
all of these shots were like, check out our IMAX cameras,
Yeah.
and there's slow-mo like guns and the
Yeah.
water effects and a boot.
And I'm like,
stepping
man, if this
down.
was in 3D, I would have
It
bought
would've
it. I
added
would have
to
went
it.
into it.
It would have added to
It
it.
feels,
really
but
would've.
there are moments where it feels very nature, like National Geographic
Which is fine.
cinematography, which I'm like,
Which is
that's
fine.
fine, that's fine.
But if you're gonna do that again, don't. Because maybe it's because I know that Inhumans is filming in Hawaii, and I know that a lot of shows film in Hawaii, but like don't try to make up other locations. Even in
Right.
the show Lost, for their flashbacks, they made Hawaii look like Australia, look like the United States, look like Europe, look like London, look like all around the world. They made it
Yeah.
look international, made it look
Yeah.
like Japan. Like they would find places in Hawaii that look like it could be a Japanese garden in Japan. Do you
Yeah.
know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
And they would film sun and Jin scenes there. And I'm like, that would have been great. So if you're going to do nature documentary stuff, awesome. The Inhumans are an international, they're not just going to go straight to Hawaii unless
Right.
there's some reason for them to be there, but we didn't.
You don't know
some
yet.
mystical reason.
It's only the
there's
first
nothing
2
there.
episodes.
Originally in the comic books, they were based in a secret city in the Himalayas until they're discovered, and then Black Bolt decides to move the entire city to the blue side of the moon, it's called, to the other side of the moon. So like them starting on the moon, that was cool, but
Yeah.
so that's where I'm at, is those first 3 things, and then
Yeah.
it gets down to stuff like, and again, it's like some of the acting didn't grab me, but I really do look at the writing. I look at the
Yeah.
directing. I look at some of the editing was kind of like awkward and
Guys, it's an hour and 21 minutes. I
Yeah.
felt like we were in that theater for the length of a Transformers movie.
yeah,
It dragged.
It's
It
a bummer.
really drags.
it's a real bummer. I don't know,
It is.
man.
But
I'm like,
let's. A lot of people might be looking at this and saying, like, "Man, you guys are really, really negative." There's
I'm gonna watch the whole first season.
There are a lot of
I'm in.
faults in these first 2 episodes, but we did talk about there are some things that actually, like, there was potential.
Sure.
One of them being Black Bolt, who's a character who obviously can't speak. As soon as he makes a sound, he
Mm-hmm.
can potentially destroy a lot of shit.
He killed his parents, and that was cool.
Yeah.
They showed that. I think it could have been done a little bit better, but that was cool.
Emotionally, it didn't hit me enough.
The
I wish I
actor-
would have felt it a little bit more.
The actor who played him, I liked him.
Anson Mount,
I
he
thought
was
he
great.
had a great presence.
Yep.
I liked that he was doing
The sign language, I thought that was the perfect way that was a perfect solve to get that for the audience to understand how does this character communicate. He does it through sign language.
Yeah, but again, you go back to like just the budget and just the idea of like, yeah, let's do Inhumans as a TV show. I'm used to opening up a comic book and seeing Black Agar Boltagon go like this, and a city block is destroyed.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? And at one point he goes, like that quickly in the show because he's getting jostled by Hawaiian police officers,
Yeah.
and a car flips over. And I'm kind of like, that must have cost a lot in the budget to do that stunt. And then as they pan over, like a car's destroyed.
They took their time with that
They
stunt.
took their time, but I looked at that and I was like, guys, we've seen that a bagajillion times.
Yeah.
A bagajillion times.
A car
You're
getting flipped,
You're
yeah.
showing me a car flipped, and you're showing me when you pass by, like, look at the destruction that Black Bolt caused. It's a car in a TV show that's like banged up, like a
Yeah.
cop car that's like smashed. That like it's easy to do for
Yeah,
a
they
television
rigged it
show.
up, and yeah, exactly.
So I'm like, there was potential there. You know,
But he's great because I mean,
I did really
all of
like
his
that
acting
actor.
has to rely on really
It's
his
so
facial
tough.
expressions,
It's so tough.
and you can tell that he clenches his mouth in a way that you know he wants to like
Mm-hmm.
say something, and he has to control himself because he goes back to that vision of him accidentally killing his parents. And
Yeah.
like that
Yeah.
obviously had an effect on him.
Great
but
character.
I love that throughout the show, towards the end where he's in Hawaii, he kind of he has a little bit more of like comedy.
There's
a
so
little
much
more
great
comedic
comedy
twist.
you can play with that character,
Yeah.
and they did.
Absolutely.
He goes into a suit store, puts it on, and
He realizes
steals
like
the
I
damn
stand
suit.
out. I stand out way too much.
Yeah, great.
He goes. He gets fitted for a suit. He walks right out. They call the police.
Yeah.
He gets taken to a jail. And
But like when he walks in the suit store,
Yeah.
a woman's helping him, and he's just like, and she's like, "Oh, okay, you don't speak.
you don't speak English.
Come this way." And you're like,
Yeah.
"Ha ha ha!" Like there's
Right,
great
right,
little
right.
Thor fish out of water
absolutely
moments that you could do.
He goes into the jail. He acknowledges the fact that like They have him handcuffed.
And he just
he takes them off. He puts them down. He signals to the cell. He wants to be put in the cell. He understands that he's a threat and all this kind of stuff.
It was
like
great.
He's playing along and he's really like trying to not cause any sort of trouble. He goes to have his picture taken. He's in a tough place. So there are little bits and pieces throughout that I think are great, and a lot of it comes from some of the subtle acting that they do. But for the majority, it's like the acting, it's because of the writing. It suffers because of the writing.
Yeah,
I feel like I can't fault the actors because I need to see more of what happens with them.
I really was bummed with how they portrayed Maximus.
Yeah.
I have only seen that actor from a few scenes in Game of Thrones. I don't watch Game of Thrones, but I know he played Ramsay Bolton, this bastard of a guy. And seeing a couple of scenes with him, I was like, this guy's a motherfucker. Like, he's awesome.
Yeah.
Such a good villain.
Yeah.
So when I heard he was cast, I'm like, yeah, that's like a no-brainer.
Yeah.
And I liked that he didn't put on a British accent. He had like this interesting, like American sort of like very well pronounced, overly pronunciated, you know. And I thought that was great. His delivery of stuff. The writing didn't help him, and the way the character potential could have been really, really cool for Maximus. We were talking about something like Loki. We were talking about a Magneto. We were talking about these classic villains. Even though you go back to the comic books, even though he doesn't have powers, he's the most dangerous Inhuman because of just his brain, because of how he can manipulate people.
Yeah.
So I was bummed by that, and yeah, just the writing didn't help him, man. And he didn't seem like it's a stupid minor nitpick, but I'm like, they cut a little bit of his presence. And even though I'm a short guy, I get this, but like the kid that they cast to play this kid who like got his powers and could tell the future was like this much taller than him.
He's like me and Hector.
So anytime Maximus would come up and talk to this kid, it would be like you're going to do great things. And I'm like, God, give the guy a break. Like, let him have
someone get this man an apple box.
Like, let him have the presence of, you know, and I'm like, that's a minor
Especially
thing.
with Black Bolt being like such a imposing figure.
Man. Or at least if you're trying to do this sort of like, you know, devilish, sort of smaller, like Wolverine, like chip on his shoulder thing, like go that route. But
embrace it fully.
Yeah, I don't know.
Even the fight sequences, I thought the fight sequences could have been done better. And again, like now having seen Iron Fist season 1, seeing sort of that, like that's another Scott Buck sort of show. I'm like, yeah, let's get some better sort of choreography. Let's give these actors more time. There's a fight sequence.
Whoever did Defenders.
Yeah, there's a fight sequence between Medusa and one of the characters on Earth.
Yeah.
And it was a really cool moment for that character because she finally sort of has that moment where she can be like, she straight up shanks someone and murders somebody. But it was a nice moment for that character to actually feel like she does something. You know, she's like, I'm the fucking queen of Adelan.
Yeah.
Kaiju, calm down.
But I was bummed that they cut her hair like immediately because I just looked at that and I went, I get it. It's a budget thing. You guys can't do CG hair every single scene.
And it's like, we get it that it happened in the comics too. Earn your way to that.
Right.
Earn your way to that.
Imagine if there was a season, 20 episodes of Inhumans, and it was like family drama, royal family or whatever.
You see her dependency on that, but that's her power, and then it gets taken
And then
away.
at the end of season 1, that's the cliffhanger. Or the beginning of season 2, like this is what Medusa's going to have to deal with. That would have been amazing.
Yeah. You give us all these things in the first episode, and it's like, I'm coming into this fresh, and I'm going, okay, what's the significance? What other powers does she have? I think that's the other thing, too. I had a really hard time gauging what are the power sets of these people.
Crystal could control the elements or like generate like fire and ice or, you know, those kind of intense blasts. Didn't really grab me, that character. I wanted more of a personality. I wanted more of a personality from Lockjaw because he was adorable, cute as a dog, did cool stuff, but he still like did stuff kind of going against wishes. And I'm like, and then they put him to sleep, which is fine, not kill him, but like they knocked him out for the remainder of the show because
there goes all their money.
Budget, which is fine. But I'm like, I wanted more of like just like a personality in him. He was well animated. But give me just stay on him for a second so we can connect. I think
visual effects wise, for the most part, apart from like some scenes of Adelan from a distance, and I get it. You know, it's IMAX. It's a lot bigger format. Blah 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 blah. I get all that. I would have invested. I would have split up maybe a little bit more of that between Lockjaw and that.
Look, the ending thing here is.
Unless we're going.
I would not have done Inhumans as a TV show with this budget. We talked about this. I would have
maybe done it as a Netflix series.
I would have done it as a Netflix series, a miniseries, or I would have done it. I would have done Inhumans as kind of another spin-off of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., where it is people on Earth discovering they're Inhuman and being on the run. Just like Gifted. Just like The Gifted, the X-Men show, which isn't Cyclops, Jean Grey, Wolverine. It's like new characters. Polaris
like
is
Heroes.
in it. But yes, it's like Heroes. And I would have done that with maybe cameos of the royal family. And you earn, like the end of season 1, Black Bolt shows up. You know, and Medusa's like, come with us, we found you, child, or whatever. Like, that kind of shit, because it's just so ambitious, and unfortunately, It didn't come across
Yeah.
for various reasons.
I
Super
100% agree. I think you either go that route or you just wait. You wait it out. And you make the movie.
Yeah.
Wait till 2025, make the movie.
But the fact that they didn't makes me think like, don't confirm any rumors that like
Right.
Marvel TV and Marvel movies don't like each other, and Marvel TV
Right.
was like, fine, we're just gonna do this and be like, don't do that.
And also, I mean, like I've seen things from the Sci-Fi Network, the Sci-Fi Channel.
Yeah.
That looks really good, and it's
Wow.
very sci-fi. Like Zach has shown us little clips of Expanse,
Yeah.
the Krypton, the trailer for that Krypton show.
Yeah.
I'm like, damn, this shit looks like they really put some money
There
at
you
it.
go.
And even
There
with
you go.
IMAX backing this, I'm like, maybe ABC just was not the right fit for this. You should have gone a Netflix route, or you should have gone the opposite route and earning your way to the royal family, or you should have just waited and held off and done a movie at a later point. But I think this is a really big, ambitious show. I think it requires the budget because it is sci-fi.
Agreed.
I don't want to see this like CW sort of ABC take on it, and like I think that works completely for other shows.
I agree.
For Flash,
I agree.
works. Supergirl, even Supergirl
Yeah.
works.
Yeah.
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. works. But I think for this, if you're going to do a full sci-fi show, you got to either embrace it, find a way to get around it, or you just make it a feature film. But, you know, I guess those are my final thoughts on Inhumans. I wanted to love these first 2 episodes. And a lot of people who say, you know, it's just the pilot is the hook. The pilot is make
Yeah,
or break
man.
for me. If I'm not into the pilot, I'm
Guys,
out.
Augustine's been in the background this entire time. He didn't watch Inhumans with us tonight, but we were having this discussion, and Augie was like, dude, I bought the whole series of Lost based on the pilot. That
Yeah.
pilot is still the best pilot I've ever seen on television. Is
The
Lost.
Flash. I
And
fell
it's-
in love with the pilot of The
Yeah.
Flash, and I was hooked for that first season. I was in. Supergirl, same thing.
The pilot for Lost was so good that Tom Cruise came in and recruited J.J.
JJ to make
Abrams and was
Mission
like,
fucking
you know,
impossible.
well, actually, he did that off of Alias, but
That's
still,
true.
but still,
That's true.
The point
That's
is
true. To
that
be fair,
it
that's
feels
true.
cinematic.
Yeah.
It can be done. It can be done. And
Absolutely.
and if Marvel, if everybody wants this show to succeed, and I will watch every episode of the first season. I like to judge TV
I'm gonna
shows.
give it a shot. I'm
by
gonna
a whole
give the next
season.
I'm gonna give the next few episodes a shot. And
Yeah.
if it's worse than what this was, then I'm out.
Yeah.
If it gets progressively better, then I will stick through it because I've done
But-
it with other shows that are not that good too.
But I really think that it's I lost my train of thought completely. I'm giving it a shot. It's just like it's a bummer.
It's
a
like
bummer.
anything that we talk about, anything that's comic book related, we will always give it a shot. We will always go into
Yeah.
it even.
I'm not rooting
even
against
Stevens.
this,
No
man.
one's rooting against it, whether it's Marvel, DC, Star
But
Wars,
get-
Valiant, whatever it is.
Like fix the writing.
Fix
and,
it.
And I could and
Improve
I would
it.
forgive literally everything else. I would forgive budget. I would forgive costumes. I would forgive lighting. I would
If the
forgive
writing is
CG.
solid.
If the writing has moments where I was like, I like this character.
Right.
I like how they just said that. Oh, that was a good line.
Not
Ooh,
every
that's
TV
good, you know.
show can be Game of Thrones where they throw everything at it, but you get the payoff is so good. You get a show that everybody talks about week after week
Yeah.
after week after week. When it's off air, people talk about it. In Humans, I don't think that's going to be the case, unfortunately.
man.
Like, I want that to be the
Ugh.
case. But, guys, if you went out this weekend and you checked out Marvel's Inhumans, the first 2 episodes, let us know in the comments. I'm so curious. I think we're both really curious to see what people thought about it. If you found a lot more redeeming things about it, let us know. There may be things that we didn't address that we also found redeeming that we'll definitely give you kudos for
But
pointing
I,
it out.
I will say this: like every single comic booky thing.
Yeah.
This just makes me want to read the comics.
Yeah.
For good
I'm
or
intrigued
bad.
to know more about these
It makes me
characters
want to
now.
go get some old like collections of.
Yeah.
I want to know. I want to know.
I
if
want
they
a
did any,
I want a volume 1 and I
Yeah.
want to get to know these
I'll get you some
characters.
volume ones.
Yeah.
I have Marvel Unlimited, and I'm gonna go and get some. There's been a lot of new Inhuman comics in the past couple years. A lot of series. My buddy Jeff Loveness wrote a little crossover with the Inhumans, Spider-Man, and Captain America, Sam Wilson, and I freaking loved it. And I love the Inhuman characters in that.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of stuff. So like, I will bring you some stuff, but it did make me want to like read about Atalan or Attilan and read about the blue side of the moon and read about Black Agar Boltagon and Medusa
sure.
and Karnak and Gorgon and Maximus and Crystal.
Yeah.
And Crystal ends up dating the Human Torch of the Fantastic Four. And, you know,
The more
like,
you know, baby.
great shit, man.
Yeah. Hector, before we go, where can
Quicksilver.
everybody find you?
And then Quicksilver. She ends up with Quicksilver. They have a baby together.
Really?
They have a daughter named Luna. Yeah,
See?
Quicksilver.
This guy.
Quicksilver gets around. You can find me on the internet at Hector is Funny.
You just find me at Adam Levitt, guys. Subscribe right here. HyperRPG for all the latest videos.
You can
YouTube.com/HyperRPG.
You can find that back of the head at L_Santo Taco. Yeah.
Find him playing games, not watching Inhumans. Guys, make sure to subscribe right here. YouTube.com/HyperRPG. Twitch programming every single week. Twitch.tv/HyperRPG.
I'm gonna
We'll
get
catch
outta
you
here,
guys
Adam.
in the next one.
Okay, Lockjaw, take me home.